Alcohol is a really bad drug, 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive. And not merely because they don't know what they're doing. We did experiments at McGill showing that if you took drunk people and put them in a competitive environment where they could be aggressive and had them keep track of their aggression so they were actually conscious of it, they became more aggressive even rather than less. So yeah, alcohol's bad news, and it can turn perfectly good people into quite the impulsive and dim-witted monsters. So
didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I just, like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation, I was drinking a lot, and I've always been able to drink a lot. I think I get my genes from my mum's side in that thing, like I can drink. And I decided to just give up for January. I just wanted to do dry January, and all I could think about was having a drink. It's all I could think about. I was waking up thinking about it, I was checking the clock, when's it 12? And it just really scared me. I just was like, wow, maybe I have a little bit of an alcohol thing. So I sort of decided to punish myself and say, I'll do February as well, I'll do 2 months off. If I can do 2 months off, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. 2 months go by, and I was still really struggling. I felt like I couldn't be social. I felt like I couldn't go to the pub and have a lime soda. I couldn't go out for dinner. I was really, really struggling. And I started to really worry that maybe I had an alcohol problem. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I had ever been in my life. I could sleep better, I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier, I felt fitter. And I just sort of said to myself, like, why am I enslaved to this drink? Why am I so obsessed by the idea of having this drink? And I would look back and recognize that I would go to events for work and be like, I can't enjoy myself until I've had a few beers. And I just felt so much pressure, and this is one of the things why I've sort of distanced myself from the rugby community, because so much of it is about how much can you drink, let's get you as drunk as possible. And it's honestly been the best thing I've ever done. I'm a year and a half into it now. It doesn't even cross my mind. I've found amazing replacements that I think are fantastic, ones that are also really healthy. I found this one beer that it's full of electrolytes, and it's, the carbohydrates in it are long-lasting energy, so like having a beer is now actually like a really healthy thing. I'm really lucky that all my friends are super supportive about it. I've never run into that scenario where my friends are like, oh, go on, just have a beer, like, you're fine. They've always sort of really supported me, and I don't want to be that person that's saying to people, you should get sober, you should get sober. If I could encourage someone to drink less, then that's great, but I don't want to start getting into the world of you need to stop drinking, because it's not for me to say. I went on my own little journey. I'm really enjoying it.
I got sober when I was younger, when in 2001, which I now look at as a sort of a JV version of what really the problem is. I was sober for a couple of years, and then I thought, I want to just drink like a normal person, and I want to have wine at dinner and so on. And I was able to. I was able to for about 8 years.
But he says he learned that sooner or later your vulnerabilities can find you.
I started to drink more and more and more, and it was really hard for me to accept that meant I was an alcoholic. I was like, I can just go back. I was fine before. I just need to take a break. I just need to slow down. I'm okay. You know what I mean? This isn't me. And I started drinking every day. I come home from work, I start to drink, and I just sit there and drink until I pass out on the couch. For me, seeing my dad was just, he was drunk every day, and that was just life. Then as that got worse, that was really, really painful. And I always said, that'll never be me. I'm never gonna do that. I wish he had been sober during those formative years, but what he's taught me is how important it is for me to be sober now during these formative years for my kids.
He says his mother was his rock, but as his family broke apart, he vowed never to repeat it.
What was the hardest thing for you to be honest with yourself about?
That I was going to get divorced. That I never thought I was going to get divorced. I didn't want to get divorced. I didn't want to be a divorced person. I really didn't want to be a split family with my children. And it upset me because it meant I wasn't who I thought I was. And that was so painful and so disappointing.
Alcohol doesn't bring out the best in people's characters. Alcohol almost universally makes people less than they are. It's fun because it eradicates your concern for future consequences. It actually kind of does that physiologically, you might say, because alcohol is a potent anxiety-reducing drug. For some people, it's also a psychomotor stimulant like cocaine, and it was certainly that for me. And for for people too, it can have a heroin-like effect, which facilitates the sense of social belonging. And I think I had all three of those effects from alcohol. So I liked it quite a lot. But the consequence for me was, I would misbehave when I was drinking in ways that made me remorseful the next day, or the next 2 days, or the next week. And I realized at that point that was a performative contradiction in a sense. Performative contradiction is when you act out something that's a lie, that runs contrary to your moral beliefs, right? And so I was looking at the literature on atrocity, trying to determine how the proclivity to bring those states about, those hellish states about, might be ameliorated. Like, what's the opposite of evil? That's the question I suppose I was trying to solve. And so when I saw patterns of behavior in my own life that were making things worse than they had to be, then that was an indication that it was time to stop.
Ethanol produces substantial damage to cells. And it does that because when you ingest ethanol, it has to be converted into something else because it is toxic to the body. And there's a molecule inside of all of us called NAD, and you may have heard of NAD because it's quite popular. There's a lot of discussion about NAD in the longevity literature right now. NAD is present in all our cells from birth until death. The levels of NAD tend to go down across the lifespan. There are ideas that increasing levels of NAD may extend lifespan. A lot of that is still controversial, or at least we should say is ongoing in terms of the research. But nonetheless, when you ingest ethanol, NAD and related biochemical pathways are involved in converting that ethanol into something called acetaldehyde. It's broken down into acetaldehyde. And if you thought ethanol was bad, acetaldehyde is particularly bad. Acetaldehyde is poison. It will kill cells. It damages and kills cells, and it is indiscriminate as to which cells it damages and kills. Now, that's a problem, obviously, and the body deals with that problem by using another component of the NAD biochemical pathway to convert acetaldehyde into something called acetate. Acetate is actually something that your body can use as fuel. And that process of going from ethanol to acetaldehyde to acetate does involve the production of a toxic molecule, right? Again, acetaldehyde is really toxic. And NAD, and if we want to get technical, it's the NAD to NADH ratio. And that chemical step is the rate-limiting step to ethanol's metabolism. What does that mean for you? What that means is that if your body can't do this conversion of ethanol to acetaldehyde to acetate fast enough, well, acetaldehyde will build up in your body and cause more damage. So it's important that your body be able to do this conversion very quickly. And the place where it does that is within the liver. And cells within the liver are very good at this conversion process. But they are cells, and they are exposed to the acetaldehyde in the conversion process. And so cells within the liver really take a beating in the alcohol metabolism events. So the key thing to understand here is that when you ingest alcohol, you are, yes, ingesting a poison, and that poison is converted into an even worse poison in your body, and some percentage of that worse poison is converted into a form of calories that you can use to generate energy, generate ATP. And the reason why alcohol is considered empty calories is because that entire process is very metabolically costly, but there's no real nutritive value of the calories that it creates. You can use it for immediate energy, but it can't be stored in any kind of meaningful or beneficial way. It doesn't provide any vitamins. It doesn't provide any amino acids. It doesn't provide any fatty acids. It's truly empty calories.